The IMF downgraded its projected global economic growth rate for 2022. South Korea's downgrade was relatively small, just 0.2 of a percentage point from the previous projection. The nation's cabinet members endorsed a revision to an ordinance that seeks to establish a police bureau under the Interior Ministry. The changes will be proclaimed and executed from August 2nd. SK Group Chair Choi Tae-won is set to hold a video conference with President Joe Biden. Talks will likely focus on the Korean conglomerate's investment in the U.S. manufacturing sector and creating more jobs. Hello and welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Che. Let's begin with our top story. The IMF downgraded its global growth projection for 2022. In its latest World Economic Outlook report, the agency cut its forecast for global economic growth rate for this year by 0.4 percentage point from its previous projection in April to 3.2%. The revision is mostly due to higher than expected inflation in the U.S. and Europe and economic slowdown in China, the war in Ukraine, and the negative impact of COVID-19. Among major economies, South Korea's downgrade was relatively small, a cut of 0.2 of a percentage point from the previous projection to 2.3%. Despite economic headwinds globally, the South Korean economy still grew faster than the previous quarter. Experts believe the trend was driven by consumer spending, which recovered as social distancing ended. Ji-young helps us look beyond the digits.
The growth rate of the South Korean economy sped up in the second quarter. The Bank of Korea reported Tuesday that the country's gross domestic product, adjusted for inflation, is estimated to have edged up 0.7% on quarter in the April to June period. The country's economy grew at a faster pace compared to the 0.6% growth recorded in the first quarter of this year. A Bank of Korea official attributed the faster on-quarter growth to a pickup in private spending.
Due to the complete lifting of COVID-19 social distancing measures, private spending rose significantly, which was led by the service sector and semi-durable goods.
Private spending rose by 3% compared to the previous quarter, for the highest on-quarter increase since the second quarter of last year. Public spending also grew by 1.1% compared to the previous quarter. However, exports, a major driver of the country's economy, slumped on quarter amid lockdowns in China and the war in Ukraine. Exports in the second quarter of this year shrank 3.1% compared to the quarter before, recording the biggest drop in 2 years. The Bank of Korea officials said not only have exports slumped, but the trade conditions have also worsened.
Import prices, including those for coal and petroleum products, rose more than South Korea's main export items, including semiconductors and chemical goods.
Despite this, the official added that the central bank's 2022 South Korean economic growth projection made in May, which stands at 2.7%, is likely to be achieved. But one expert says whether the goal can be met depends on the global oil prices.
For future growth, I think it all depends on how the oil prices move. If the oil prices continue to go down, I think the Bank of Korea's growth goal for this year can be met. But if oil prices go back up again, then we may have much slower growth.
The Bank of Korea anticipates that economic uncertainties will remain due to soaring inflation and the recent surge in COVID-19 infections, which could harm consumer sentiment. Ji-young, Arirang News.
SK Group will make fresh investments in the U.S. During a briefing on Tuesday, the White House announced SK's plans to invest an additional $22 billion to create more resilient and secure supply chains. Although SK Group hasn't unveiled specific details, this makes the group's total investment in the U.S. under the Biden administration at $29 billion. The announcement comes ahead of President Joe Biden's virtual meeting with the group's chair, Choi Tae-won, scheduled for Tuesday, 2 p.m. Washington time. The two will discuss SK's investment in the U.S. manufacturing sector and creating more jobs. On the second day of the Parliament's interpellation session, economy-related ministers were summoned to answer questions from lawmakers. Government officials and the opposition bloc clashed over the latest tax cut measures on income and corporations. Lee Kyung-eun has the details.
Among the most hotly debated topics during the parliamentary hearing on economy-related ministries on Tuesday was the government's latest tax cut plans. Prime Minister Han Duck-soo called them inevitable in order to keep South Korea's growth momentum. His remarks came in response to criticism from the Democratic Party, who said the tax cuts will lead to fewer welfare benefits for the general public.
If you cut corporation taxes, what will happen to public spending for the people who need it?
The government has no other option but to take action and reduce business tax burdens, especially at a time of high interest and currency rate.
The PM added that tax cuts on corporations had always brought a trickle-down effect in the country, where the prosperity of big companies lead to the growth of small firms and therefore more jobs. Also put on the fire was the government's plan to cut income taxes, which the DP lawmakers claimed would only benefit the wealthy. President Yoon's People Power Party gave the finance minister a chance to refute such claims.
The taxation scheme is designed to bring relatively bigger tax cuts for those in the low to middle income brackets.
Regarding the easing of real estate taxes, in a major reversal of the previous administration's policy, the PM said it is the most ideal way to normalize the market.
The key to the housing policy is making sure that homeowners don't become the public enemy. And the direction should be increasing supply, not reducing the demand through excessive taxes.
Despite cuts in tax revenues, which some lawmakers raised concerns about, the PM said the budget is all precisely calculated in a way that will enable the government to carry out its plans. The PM added that one of the key economic priorities is to maintain financial soundness. The national debt to GDP ratio is expected to hit 68% at the current pace after 5 years, but the government's plan is to keep it at 55%. 이경은 Arirang News.
A new bureau tasked with supervising the police will start work early next month. It's under the Ministry of Interior and Safety and will exercise direct authority over the National Police Agency. It was approved today, but it faced strong backlash from officers. Kim Do-yeon has the full story.
As expected in Tuesday's cabinet meeting, members voted to approve the creation of a new police supervisory bureau under the Ministry of Interior and Safety. This new organization under the Interior Ministry will begin work on August 2nd. According to the ministry, it will be made up of 16 members, 12 of whom will be current police officers. Its main role is to oversee the National Police Agency, as well as approve appointments and promotions of officers at the senior superintendent level and above. The nation's criminal justice system is undergoing a series of changes that transfer much of the prosecution's investigative power to the police. The ministry says it's responsible for overseeing them in this role while giving them opportunities to improve.
We will maximize the potential of the police to gain the public's trust. We will build more buildings for investigation training. We will work with other ministries to create new university study programs for investigative work and other educational opportunities at law schools.
While Minister Lee also says the administration will not be interfering with any investigations, there has been an enormous backlash from most police officers who are claiming this will compromise the political neutrality of the police. This includes collective action by officers, such as last week's nationwide meeting of police chiefs, which the leadership of the agency ultimately expressed disapproval of. This is a sensitive issue in the country. For decades before 1990s, the South Korean police were infamous for helping uphold authoritarian military regimes by cracking down on innocent civilians. Currently, the National Police Agency is an independent entity under the Interior Ministry, but the ministry is limited in exercising its authority over the police. Some also claim that changing the organizational structure should not be done by executive order, but needs parliamentary approval, calling for help from the National Assembly, where the main opposition holds a majority. Meanwhile, further collective action is expected as a nationwide police officers meeting is set to take place on the 30th of this month, which the leadership also disapproves of, but the representatives of the police officers said all 140,000 officers nationwide will be invited to attend. Earlier in the day, President Yoon Suk-yeol himself strongly condemned these collective actions against the administration's decision, calling them a breach of discipline. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
President Yoon ordered the justice ministers to put the economy first when making judicial policy, like revising visa policies to bring in the workers needed by Korean businesses and easing excessive punitive measures that could undermine business activities. Yoon Jung-min shares with us his remarks.
Following a policy briefing by his Justice Minister on Tuesday, President Yoon Suk-yeol ordered his officials to prioritize judicial policies that contribute to reviving the economy.
President Yoon asked for a flexible visa policy to meet demand for workers at industrial sites. He also ordered a legislative overhaul to meet global standards and improve excessive punitive measures that could undermine business activities.
To cope with the nation's declining birth rates and aging population, the Justice Minister unveiled plans to open an immigration control tower to oversee policies related to borders and immigration, visas for foreign workers, and initiatives to remove barriers for children of immigrants. Han Dong-un also announced plans to crack down on serious and widespread crimes across the nation as prosecutors are set to lose the investigative powers they have once the opposition party-backed laws come into effect in September. It's something both the prosecutor general turned president and the prosecutor turned minister have been critical of.
We will sternly deal with corruption that destroys the foundation of a nation. We will promptly restore capacity to tackle corruption, which has been weakened due to restriction on direct investigation by the prosecution, by bolstering investigative infrastructure.
The ministry will zoom in on crimes targeting women and children and restore the prosecution's capacity to collect crime data, create a joint investigation team, and tighten coordination with the Fair Trade Commission to better tackle white-collar crimes. Separately, South Korea plans to overhaul current civil codes to establish rules on animal rights, publicity rights, or personal rights, while unifying a complicated age-counting system to keep up with global standards. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Top new envoys of Seoul and Beijing held a phone to share their assessment of North Korea's situation and discuss ways to bolster bilateral cooperation. Kim Gun told Liu Xiaoming that the government is preparing a roadmap in cooperation with Washington that will lay out necessary political, economic, and military countermeasures depending on Pyongyang's denuclearization status. He also requested China to play an active role in bringing the regime back to the negotiating table. In response, Liu said Beijing will play a constructive role to foster peace and stability on the peninsula. The South Korean military conducted its biggest helicopter drill in 2 years. More than a dozen Apache choppers took part in live fire exercises on Monday. Bae Eun-ji takes us closer to the action.
Rockets from Apache attack helicopters precisely hit their targets on a mountain. The rockets are followed by live gunfire. The South Korean Army on Monday held its largest helicopter drill since the start of the pandemic. During the drill, Apache helicopters fired around 100 2.75-inch rockets and 440 rounds from their 33mm guns. Along with about 200 troops, 30 helicopters took part in the training. This included 16 Apache Guardians, as well as 10 Blackhawks and 4 Chinook helicopters. That's around 3 times as many aircraft as were involved in the same type of drill 2 years ago.
I'm sure this large-scale aerial training will give our citizens and our country confidence and faith in our military.
During the training, Apache helicopters also made steep turns and dives to practice the evasive maneuvers that are crucial for avoiding enemy attacks. In an actual battle, Apache helicopters will be tasked with destroying the enemy's key assets, like armored tanks. They will be followed by Blackhawks and Chinook helicopters, which will safely transport troops and supplies to the battlefield.
The Army's Air Force is crucial to win battles on land, based on its rapid mobility and strong power. We're going to really focus on the training so that we can defeat the enemy if we go on an actual mission right now.
The military said it plans to expand this type of aerial training and hold it regularly to enhance readiness. Bae Eun-ji, Arirang News.
The nation's daily COVID-19 tally has been roughly doubling every week. South Korea also reported its first locally transmitted case of the Omicron subvariant, also known as Centaurus. This means it's spreading among the local population. Lee Hyun brings the updates.
A full COVID-19 resurgence is now becoming a reality here in South Korea. The country reported 99,327 new infections on Tuesday, an increase of over 63,000 from a day before. That's the highest tally in over 3 months. 168 critically ill patients were reported, up 24 from a day earlier. Meanwhile, the first locally transmitted case of the Omicron subvariant, BA 2.75 dubbed Centaurus, was confirmed on Monday. That brings the total number of infections in the country to 4. The newly confirmed case is reportedly an acquaintance of the second person known to have been infected who entered the country from India on July 5th. And there are some concerns as the latest patient was triple vaxxed. Korea's Central Disease Control Headquarters said that the latest case tested positive 9 days after his final contact with the second confirmed case, which exceeds the maximum 8 days incubation period of the Omicron variant. Health authorities aim to investigate more of the confirmed Centaurus cases to confirm the incubation period of the variant. Meanwhile, the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency will announce its plan to roll out an Omicron adaptive vaccination program in late August. The authority said on Monday that it's currently assessing its effectiveness and safety to determine the right time for distribution. Earlier this month, health officials discussed supply of the new vaccine with Moderna and Pfizer. The vaccine is expected to prevent infection with Omicron itself, as previous vaccines were only used to prevent critical illness or deaths due to the Omicron variant. Questions remain over whether the vaccine will be effective for the Centaurus subvariant. Lee Hyun, Arirang News.
These days, a growing number of Koreans are buying and selling plants both for fun and profit. Some varieties can go for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. It can be looked to as a form of alternative investment. Jin Ha-young zooms in on this trend.
People in South Korea have been looking for other ways to make money with consumer prices rising and the stock market heading down. They're buying certain types of houseplants and reselling them, a practice they call plant tech. 1.5 million Korean won, or about 1,140 US dollars. That's the price of this popular and unique Monstera variegata plants that I'm holding right now. These days, more people are getting into plants not just as a hobby, but also in search of profits. Plants like Queen Anthurium go for up to 1,900 US dollars, while the vine known as Mini Monstera can sell for up to $2,300. Then what makes these plants so valuable?
The high-value ones are the ones with leaves that are variegated, that is, they have patterns on their leaves. They aren't easy to grow, so demand for them is rising while the supply is limited.
People in different age groups are seeking out rare plants for different reasons.
I got interested in rare plants after seeing them on YouTube. For my birthday, I want to get a philodendron white princess and an elephant ear. It will be fun to take care of them when I get stressed out.
Another shopper said she was looking for a new hobby she could use to make some money on the side.
A healthy albo monstera plant takes a month to grow a new leaf. I'll be looking forward to these new and unpredictable patterns. It's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone because I can clone the plant with trimmings and sell the new plants online.
The rising popularity of plant tech can be seen in other industries as well. According to one of the biggest Korean bookstores, sales of books about plants jumped more than 30% last year from the year before, and so far this year, they've risen about 17%. The Korea Invention Promotion Association forecasts that the Korea's market for indoor plant cultivation will expand to $58 million US by next year. One expert says this phenomenon is the result of people's interest in scarcity as a source of value.
As with cryptocurrency, the value comes from scarcity. The value of a thing rises when people are interested in it, and these factors make plant tech a way to invest.
Though investing in plants has relatively low barriers to entry, because plants take skills to grow, it's important to not only understand the trend of the market, but also to learn about the plants themselves. 신하영, Arirang News.
Visitors arriving in the country can witness how technologically advanced South Korea is at the Incheon International Airport. Robots are on hand to guide them to gates, restaurants, and even to deliver food. Shin Yeon returns a spotlight to these smart helpers.
Hello, my name is Airstar. Please touch my screen or say my name if you need assistance.
This is Airstar, the first robot of its kind in the world to work at an airport. Airstar's main job is to escort passengers to their check-in counters or departure gates. It can speak and understand 4 languages: Korean, Chinese, English, and Japanese. Let's give it a try.
Press the start button most.
Take me to gate 14.
Yes, I'll start the guidance now. You can follow me.
Airstar can be found at South Korea's largest airport. And since being launched in 2018, Airstar has been of service at least 1,000 times per day. It's not only a great communicator with a range of emotions, but also a great driver, using sensors to avoid obstacles and match the average walking speed of passengers. The latest robot to join the team is AirDilly, a delivery robot that brings your food or beverage to where you're seated or near your boarding gate. All people need to do is scan the relevant QR code assigned to their seat or gate number. Then AirDilly will be on its way. It can deliver to the farthest gate in the terminal, around 250 meters away from the cafes and bakeries. It has 2 cabinets to store the orders and can carry up to 17 kilograms.
Yeah, I think it's great. It allows you to relax and sit down without having to rush around. The app was easy to use and just let the drinks come to you.
With the vision of becoming a smarter airport, Incheon International Airport has been expanding its robot staff. They all have distinctive functions. Quarantine Bot has been deployed to stop the spread of COVID-19. It checks the temperatures of travelers who have just arrived in Korea and monitors whether people comply with antivirus measures, mainly the wearing of masks. AirRide, for instance, takes passengers around the airport without a driver. Incheon International Airport says more digital projects are in the pipeline.
We realize cutting-edge technology boosts convenience for passengers. So by 2025, we will expand the number of robots and widen their functions. By next year, we're hoping to officially kick off unmanned self-driving shuttle bus services.
Incheon International Airport is where travelers can get their first taste of tech-savvy South Korea, and there's even more digital projects yet to come. In 2 years' time, we may be seeing a smart boarding system that uses facial recognition technology to shorten the check-in process. 신예은, Arirang News.
An intense heat wave will persist across South Korea tomorrow. Heat wave alerts have been expanded to further parts of inland regions, excluding parts of the East Coast and Jeju Island. Almost the entire nation is currently under heat wave advisories. Along with the sweltering conditions, the sun's UV radiation will also be strong for tomorrow. Then stable air will produce on and off showers again for the daytime. Inland regions, including the Seoul metropolitan area, will see about 5 to 20 millimeters of rainfall. Rain will increase the moisture levels in the air, making conditions feel hotter than the actual readings. Hot spells may raise the overall discomfort index. To avoid any heat-related illnesses, make sure to drink plenty of water and try to stay indoors. Aside from Jeju Island, most regions will be under cloudy skies. Lows in Seoul will be starting off at 26 degrees. Daily highs in Seoul and Chuncheon will reach 33. Gwangju and Daegu will be making it to 32 degrees. For the remainder of the week, the pattern of tropical nights and heat waves for the daytime will take over. That's all for now, and enter the weather conditions around the world.
That's all from us. As always, thank you for watching.